I'm like at that point where I'm like.
Well, who would like to start this? Well, no, we get 2 minutes. No, we'll wait. I get so excited for this class. I don't know if you guys have. If you noticed, I have
On my phone.
There's so many red dots.
I hope you guys are having as much fun as I do in this class in terms of.
Yes.
Thoroughly enjoy it. That's good. I'll ask questions later. So I don't know if you noticed, but yesterday I was being observed. Yes. Yeah, it was like a big dude. So like, yeah, he is. That's good.
So talked about your lecture on I have another class room. They brought up like your question about what would you think about the government situation.
Yes.
About like the class, like that was probably one of the so they brought up and asked us.
Yeah, no, it's
These guys are open.
yeah, they're because there's really no good answer to that. Like,
I just remember something, so I go to Federal Baptist, John Piper talked about it one time, and he said that, God gives us the grace of mercy each day, like he gives us new grace each day, so we can't really know what we would say in that situation, because we're not in that situation. But if we do get into that situation, God gives us grace and gives us that helps.
yeah,
I don't know, I mean, would I say no? And then the rest of my life.
yeah.
So,
So that's why I like using the Peter piece, right? Because here's a dude who can't be any closer to Jesus than Peter was. And still he was able to deny him and find redemption. Right? So yeah, so even feeling bad for the rest of your life, like, I don't know. You know. But I do know that the people who scare me are the people who know for sure. Right? I'm going to do this. I know exactly if that ever happened. I know exactly what I'll do. No, you scare me, dude, because either you don't value your life or I don't know. So those absolute folks.
That helps me the definition.
It is absolutely the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Do you guys remember that? That incompetence does not have the ability to demonstrate its competence. That was really good. You made me proud. Yeah. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because I didn't give you guys time because I was trying to show off. I didn't give you guys time to really give me some feedback on, like, we started this giving tree conversation. Do you guys remember that show, Silverstein and the Giving Tree? How many people read that as a kid? Okay. And I said that it's that I don't think it's a healthy book to read. And but I wanted to hear other people's perspective because I'm just a guy. I've said it in the class, but I'm just right. So what were some of your perspectives on the book?
This summer, I was in China, and on the afternoon, book as like starting, to try to introduce them the idea of how Christ's sacrifice worked. So we from that perspective, talking about like the tree gave everything for his wood, the way to give everything. He just loved the tree that he do, and even before he just kept taking the trees for wood. So we talked about like God died for us and like he gave everything for us, even though we were selfish. Sinful, like he did all of that, and like that clicked for him.
Okay, no, that clicks for me. Like as you say that, I'm like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't think from that perspective.
Okay.
I don't think it's so much what is
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. Other perspectives on the book, because that helped me, right, to not be so callous. How did other people see it growing up, or how was it just a book?
My mom, from Earth, kind of,
The trail off of your statement was you didn't know if it was more damaging or helpful, right? Now, so most of us will, no, I'll say it like this. Most of our mothers will probably apologize for something that they did to us. At some point, they'll apologize. Dads will apologize for the mother, but it typically, I'm sorry, so, my dad. So your mom's got something to say to you. That's kind of how my dad interacted. But I'll tell you that our parents they did a pretty good job. Most of them, right? They did the best they could with what they had, and what they had was going to be limited. Guess what? If that was true about them, what's going to be true about you? The same thing. You're going to do the best you can, and you won't know if it's necessarily the right thing. But what I will say is, as long as you're prayerful, as long as you're connected, you'll know, you'll be ready to say how to do it. So there are tons of times when I've been led into situations that I didn't know actually what I was doing in that moment, but God gave me the grace and the courage to walk through it. So we'll talk about some of that stuff. So those are some of the loose ends that I wanted to talk about. And also, just to kind of get your impressions on part of the film that we watched yesterday. We're not going to complete the film, but I wanted to give you some pieces around this idea of microinequity. And we're going to continue to talk about this microinequity as it relates to discrimination as a part of today's class. So in that movie, what did people see, or what caught your attention as she was kind of going through looking at media in a particular kind of way?
Because you feel like the perspective of women that like people that are everything, they're striving to be themselves, which is like really, I guess, in context, but like in the photos they look a lot different than they do in real life. So it's like the fact that they're trying to catch up and be themselves doesn't make sense, but like that's how it is. That's how it is. They literally and putting it together.
It's not a real. The images aren't even real.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I think it's interesting how she pointed out that it's not the violence against women to put out these ads that makes violence against women a lot easier on someone's conscience, I guess, because they see it at that point, because it's like reshaping how they view women easily to be violent against them.
There were, we looked at a lot of ads from earlier in the century, like 30s, 40s, 50s, and they were really explicitly stereotyping women, and like some of the silly, we all laughed at them, and they were they're just thinking that wouldn't fly in today's society, but yet it's still, that kind of concept is still in the media. It's just not maybe as obvious, like the words are there, but the way the pictures are doing it, we still receive that.
Yeah, we still do. And I would just challenge you that I would say that it hasn't changed. As a matter of fact, I'd say that maybe the words in print, because print was the major media. Now the major media is images, video, right? So Axe commercials. Do you guys remember seeing Axe commercials? What are Axe commercials all about?
How guys can get girls.
How guys can get girls, and not just a couple of girls,
Yeah.
right? Like lots of girls, right? You know, women, isn't that easy? You have taste, right? You know, so so I think the stuff has become way more sophisticated and science, right? Other thoughts? So one of the things that particular video is called "Killing Me Softly" 4. So there's obviously 3 other ones before this one. This is the most current one. It seems that she's doing one of these every 10 years, and so she's noticing some things over time. The companion to that is Tough Guys. Has anyone seen that video? Okay, I'm going to show just a small part of that because it demonstrates the counterbalance to what's happening to women, right? So can anyone? So, sisters, do you mind exposing a secret to us men around clothing sizes? What's the smallest size of clothing that a woman can purchase? A 00 or extra small. So let's just go with the 00 for a second. Gentlemen, when we see 00, what do we equate that to? But it's a real open, wide, broad question. But when you do the 00, what do you think of? No value. I'm on a basketball team. I get 00s. I have nothing. Right? So I think that it's interesting that as women look at sizing, so my wife she's probably a size 16, and I went to go buy some clothes for her, and I didn't know what to buy her because they resized everything. It was sizes 1, 2, and 3, and I was like, well, what? How does this? How does this work? I don't know how this works, right? So sisters, why did they go to a 00 as the smallest size? Do you think? Right. So what's happening with women? So as women make all these advances in society and have all these positive things going for them, there's also this other part that's threatened by all of these advances that women are making, right? So I just want to show, let me see. So this is one of my favorite things. So I love comic books. I'm all about comic books. Not all about it, but I really enjoy, you know, the modern myths of comics. So I find it interesting that, let me just find a good, yeah, here we go. And then we'll do, what was the latest Batman movie? What was that called? That was Returns? Dark Knight. Rises, okay. Oh, I was supposed to. Okay, no, oh, there's a new one coming out too, isn't there? So, so I'm going to pull up these two pictures because I think it's very interesting, particularly for boys and men, to converse. What's happening with women, the opposite is happening with men. Okay? So, back in the day when I was a kid, my sister played with Barbies. Her Barbies, you know, that was her Barbies, right? Now, I don't know, and then more recently they've come out with these dolls called brats. Have you guys seen those, right? So this wasn't ethically diverse, right? They're what? Okay, it's when you were kids. Okay, good. So then there was brats, and now there is it Hotel Spring or Holiday? Monster High, that's what it is, Monster High. Now the funny thing about Monster High is that they seem to be like a combination between Bratz and Barbie, but dead. Right? Because they're all zombies and werewolves. And I would say Monster High, right? Brothers, so I'm trying not to like make this stuff up in my head, right? But the 00, the Barbie who was already impossible to be like, and then the Bratz, and now we have Monster High, which are zombie dolls. I haven't seen a whole lot of boys. I haven't seen those billed as boy toys. Has anybody seen those billed as boy toys? Yeah, as far as boy toys go, there aren't a lot of zombie toys themselves. There are zombies that we kill with our toys, right? Is that okay, right? But I don't ever see zombies. Now, there's The Walking Dead and all those kinds of things, but the whole idea is to kill a zombie, but not play with one. And there's even this TV show. I just saw it the other day. Now, I'm trying not to be, you know, conspiracy and all this kind of stuff. But there's a show called I, Zombie. Has anyone seen that? Oh no. It is so The premise is she is a zombie pretending to be a person.
Yeah, she works as like a forensic scientist, and like somehow she got infected, and now eat people's brains to find out what happened to them. Like, and then she takes on like their characteristics too, and I'm just like,
It's a zombie, right? So I just think it's interesting, and I just want to point that out. I just want to show you these two pictures really quick. Here is, Batman today, pretty buff, right? And here's like Batman from the 1960s. Right? Here's Batman from the 1960s. What does this say? What is this saying about our culture? Okay, so we're all striving for what we think of is perfection. So, I mean, it's just funny look at this dude. Like, he's me, right? He's like me putting on a Batman suit, right? So, I just get, I don't know, what do you think this says? And I want to hear from people I haven't heard from in a while. What do you think these images say versus these images of today? Right? Look at this cat. Can anyone tell me what is a backlash? It's a reaction to something. Okay? So we're possibly looking at a woman being president of the United States, possibly. Right? The people who are afraid of what that means. So Barbie, Bratz, Halloween High, Monster High. So from my perspective, and how do movies and media portray how women are supposed to be? What I think is in society there's a backlash. What the backlash is, they're trying to show pictures of women being in their role, while men just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I could do the same thing. So I just chose Batman, but I could do the same thing with wrestling, like WW, whatever it is this week, right? So because when I was coming up, it was WWF, and then it was WWE, and now it's WW. Then it, I don't know. Anybody watch? Is it still WWE? Okay. The last time I saw it, The Rock wasn't an actor. That was the last time I saw it. So, but I don't know if you recall, but some of those dudes are like like even if we look at toys, if we look at boys' toys in the 70s. Now I thought when I was coming up that He-Man. I don't know if anybody ever saw that toy or whatnot, but He-Man was just really buff, like ripped, to the point he couldn't put his arms down. He just stayed like this the whole time. Right? I thought that was big, but now I've seen G.I. Joe action figures where the arms are bigger than the head. Like the shoulders, and they can't even I don't know. But I think that typically comes as a backlash that men feel like their power is being taken from them. So what it means to be manly been increased, right? So you have to be stronger, 6 packs or 9 packs that start here, and extreme lifting and all that kind of stuff. Um, and so I think manhood is constantly being redefined, particularly as womanhood is being defined. However, I don't think that our humanity in these conversations is being lost. So I don't want to go too far off, but I wanted to kind of address that stuff. So when you think of micro inequities, what are we talking about in terms of micro inequities? What is a micro inequity? Kind of laid it out a little bit. How about this? Let's do this. Why don't you get into groups of 3 or 4 and give me some examples of micro inequities that you may have experienced, right? So small slights that you might have gotten or people didn't recognize. They made a blind joke in front of you, or they talked negatively about a group. I apologize. About a group in front of you, thinking that you're a part of that. So I'll give you about 10 minutes to come up with examples of the micro inequities that you've experienced. All right. So if you get groups of 4, that'll be great.
I was told don't like that actually really feel that yeah, you're like yeah, like no, don't talk to me. It's like you are moving downstairs. I could if you were here. My brother always has asked 15. I have a beer. I actually don't want to call
You're sitting right under the heat maker. Yeah. So,
like I don't like in my like I grew up in Mexico and we joke really hard. So like if it sounds really mean, I take it as a joke because I'm like, oh, this is funny. Yeah. And they're like, then next week sometimes they do, but I have to tell now. I don't really like when people are really
about 5 minutes.
like the perspective of how we see that it's kind of like where
Four, three, two, one. All right. So, was everyone able to at least come up with a concept or microequity that they might have experienced in your group? So, everyone able to share one at least? If it's okay, can someone choose to share one of those micro inequities that they either talked about in the group or heard about or actually experienced themselves?
When I was good, a lot, and sometimes when I would sit down and see my mail, they would see to my associate. But it wasn't done in the way that they made me feel. It didn't feel good. And it was kind of done in anticipation of like
So it was kind of like he was flirting in a way that you weren't really, like buying you a drink.
Yeah.
You didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
Right. Microequities, other examples. Okay.
It's just like something that's like set off in a joke, but
Oh, come on, pull up your skirt. You might have ever heard that kind of thing. Okay, sorry, that's old. Right. So yeah, so go make me a sandwich, or I think they said it to one of the presidential candidates once. Iron my shirt. There were people who shouted that kind of stuff. Yeah, I can see how that could be a maximum equity. Other folks.
I've heard someone saying like when a girl is like crabby, like hey, they ask to get to the phone, and during Donald Trump said that like he's a nigger.
Yeah, it's really annoying, right? Yes, ma'am.
Really general comments about women drivers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know from a kind of guy's perspective, a number of my coaches tried to motivate me by calling me a wuss, right? come on, sisters, let's go. Right? Like, so were any of those things that people said or encounters that you had things you could sue over? No, they weren't. Right? So they're micro equities. And that's what I was talking. I heard people talking about sometimes jokes given different contexts can be micro inequities. That people just being mean, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you in any of your classes, where there is that one student that talks a lot, and then every time that student goes to talk, people go, does that ever? Oh God, right? Those are micro inequities. So I know that because I'm usually that dude. People are like, shut up. Anyway. And micro inequities have a direct impact on what? To share with that, to share that stuff with you? Direct impact on what? Well, on your psyche, but it's something very specific in particular. Discretionary effort. That's direct impact on discretionary effort. So as micro inequities go up, your discretionary effort goes down. Willingness to participate in stuff goes down. So if I have a student in class and they don't have the same clothes as the other kids in the class, they make an attempt to do something and the kids laugh at them. Is this student, what is the likelihood that this student would push through and be one of my A students with that as the background? Probably not, right? As a matter of fact, what might I expect from them? What could I anticipate from this student? What's that? The opposite, right? So acting out, not blah blah blah, not complying, not doing their stuff, because they're discretionary. They're saying why do it. We saw it with the paper basket. I mean the paper basket thing, right? So at a certain point, it was like, well, I see how it's set up. I'm not going to be successful, so why do it in the first place? So there's that, and then there's this idea of discrimination. And discrimination is the stuff that I can sue about, right? So people, touching me inappropriately, denying me opportunities, all that kind of stuff. That is discrimination. So we're gonna come back to the formula for discrimination in just a second. But I want you to tell me in this video that we're about to watch. Tell me if you see micro inequities or you see discrimination in this video. It's about 5 minutes. And I also want you to think about, is this a piece of art or how closely does this piece of art relate to real life? Okay, so this is a piece of art, but how closely does this piece of art mirror or relate to real life? If you can get that light for me, I'd appreciate it. All right, so if you can get back into your groups of four and just talk about the film. So what did you notice in the film? What did you think? What was going on in the film?
Like, yeah, I. They look like I'm not
Also, background noise wasn't. What's like gosh.
And also showing like what you like with the water in your medicine.
Yeah.
Like showing that there are especially middle age that we can't have any roles for the wedding. We're like, yes, or like we do so much. Like it always goes to like really small, like just things to take. And I'm kidding. That's passing out those. Here's one for them.
It happened somewhere else. Yeah, it keeps happening.
Charter school.
Sorta, yeah, so. Yeah, so the biggest problem. They can't be that. But, yeah, so all right, so let me bring this back because I don't want to have a side conversation about everybody else. All right. So thoughts, comments, observations, what do you think of the film? Is it close to real life or is it very far away from real life? Could it be close to real life or could it be far away from real life? It could be, okay, it could be close to real life. Right? What were some of the things you guys talked about in your smaller groups in regards to the film? Yep. So they each had kind of preconceived ideas about each other, and what do we call those? Stereotypes. And what is the foundation of a stereotype? Because we have talked about that, right? What is the foundation of a stereotype? Well, what is a stereotype? Kind of as we've talked about it. Yes, sir. Okay, so things that we've artificially kind of made up about a group. You guys remember carrot analogy? And what's at the top of the carrot? Artifacts. What's at the bottom? Values. And what creates stereotypes? When the artifacts are separated from the values. So when it's stuff that we see, like the fact that someone's Asian, but I don't know what kind of Asian that, are they Southeast Asian? Are they, are they from Japan? Are they Russian? I mean, like, I don't know what kind of Asian. Then I start making these generalizations or applying these stereotypes to them, right? So it's when the values are not connected to what I see or what I think that I see. Right? So those are stereotypes. And how do those stereotypes, were they helpful or harmful in that particular, given that particular context? Just say it louder. Harmful? Okay. In what way?
Well, I mean, you were treating the stereotype of that. Was we were treating that. So, aware, consciously make sure that it's always with the woman side.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. As we look at the stereotypes of people,
Yeah, we start looking at people as groups. We don't look at them as individuals. So I do want to clarify something around these stereotypes, right? And so stereotypes stereotypes lead to prejudice. And I believe that prejudice can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So I'm out in the savannah and I hear, I'm out there by myself and I hear this sound. What am I thinking to myself? A lion. And it sounded a little closer than I wanted to sound. Then what do I say? I need to get out of here. I'm in danger, right? Because the context. So every time I hear that sound, I'm prejudging the sound to say that I need to get out, right? So I don't know if many of you encountered this, but when I grew up in the 70s, Doberman Pinschers were the dog of choice. Today it seems to be like pit bulls or mastiffs or whatever. But back in those days, it was the Doberman Pinscher. Right? And so there were these Dobermans in the neighborhood that would always break loose when we got off the bus from school, right? So we get off the bus, we look around, we have a scout, and if one of the kids saw one of the Dobermans, they would scream. But before you could see the Doberman, you would hear the little chains, because they had choker chains, because that was also the in thing, right? Not collars, but choker. Anyway, so we would get off the bus and listen for the chains, and then we would know if it was safe or not, right? But if we heard the chain, we knew that the dogs were loose, so we had to run. Everybody had to run, scatter. Because I didn't have to run. I didn't have to be the fastest runner. I just had to be faster than somebody else. Anyway, so we began this idea of prejudice, right? So I think prejudice is a good thing, right? So you're walking down the street, 10 o'clock at night, by yourself. It's dark. You see 6 guys coming towards you. What decision do you make as you're walking down the street and 6 guys are coming towards you? Anybody? Across the street. Why? Yeah, right? You have prejudged the situation, so you have prejudice. And given that context is great. But now I'm at the Mall of America. I'm walking down an aisle. There's 6 people coming towards me. If I use that same logic from the street, what would I do? Go down a different aisle or something like that, right? But does that make sense given that context? It doesn't, right? So what prejudiced people do is they take good things and take them out of context and try to apply them as patterns for living. So what we know is that bigotry is an emotional state, a frozen emotional state. Prejudice is a thought pattern, and that discrimination is therefore an action. And so in that film, did you see any discrimination in the film? No. But there were tons of microinequities, right? There were tons of those things. And so those things become important. And this typically is particularly if anyone's been in behavior management, we know that emotions plus thoughts dictate or influence behavior. Right? So if I want to help change people's behaviors, then this is the part that I work on, because the law says it'll work on those 2 pieces. So, and one of the films that we watched, Dalton Conley, who's a guy that I follow, made some comments that I want us to kind of follow up on. So if you could turn to page 6, and I think it's the second statement that he makes that I want to pay attention to. So page 6, Dalton Conley says something that I really like. So this is the whole transcript of the video that we watched, The House We Live In. In the middle of the page, after the narrator, can someone read Conley's statement where it says, "Where one's family lives"?
Sure. Whereas one family that lives in America is not just a matter of taste and preference. You have the issue of housing inequality. The majority of Americans hold most of their wealth in the form of money. That's their investment. That's how they can finance the education of the offspring. That's how they can sort of save up for retirement. It's not their savings, right? They're living in their savings.
All right. Can you jump down to Conley's second comment?
Today, the average black family has only 1/8 the net worth or assets of the average white family. That difference has seemingly grown since the 1960s, and it is not explained by other factors like education, earning rates, saving rates. It is really the legacy of racial inequality from generations past. Other measures captures Another measure captures the legacy, the sort of cumulative disadvantage of race or cumulative advantage of race the network as well.
Right. Can someone read the narrator and then the last comment by Conley?
Same income, right? Have on average twice the wealth of black families. Much of that difference lies in the value. What happens when we compare the right comparison, we can compare a black kid from a family with the same income as well. Rates of college graduation are the same. Rates of employment and work hours are the same. Rates of welfare usage are the same. So when we're talking about race in terms of cultural or genetic makeup, we're really missing the picture.
And so what comparison is he suggesting that we need to be making? Talking about wealth and economic status, right? So when we compare those two things, we start to see that there's more equality in those systems. And so typically when we have these systems where there are lots of microinequities, discrimination, we have this imbalance. And so one of the things that you will have to deal with is this concept of the education gap. Has anyone ever heard of that? Right? The education gap and closing that gap. Well, part of that means we have to make better comparisons and making sure that we raise folks up so that we're on an even playing field. But there are tons of these micro inequalities or microaggressions that are happening that minimize people's opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not saying that I like that with just really like the trend, I guess.
Yep.
But like, is this all based on like what we looked at as far as like racial, like self-identification, like, so what is black then and what is white? Because then what are the statistics?
Yeah. So when we talk, are you talking about the wealth gap?
I'm talking about like how people are identified as black or white and everything like that. Like what we looked at for like an application, is that all applied to like the statistics you're saying, like who is black and who is white?
Yeah. So they do show up based on those racial categories that we were talking about before. So how people self-identify or how people are identified, whether they self-identify or not. Yep. So one of the things that is problematic. So microinequities are designed to try to diminish your humanity, right? So if you don't see yourself in your classrooms, you don't see yourself in the major part of society, what does that start to do to a kids in particular? Self-esteem. What does that start to do with their way of seeing themselves in the world? Does it expand it or does it kind of shrink it? So in Texas, and this came across my Facebook feed, so I wanted to kind of check it out myself. So I went to this article, and one of the things that, and I can understand why they may want to do this, but I don't think that their execution was very, very good. So what McGraw-Hill did is they created a book in Texas that talked about patterns of immigration. And in this particular section, they talked about the fact, well, they kind of rewrote history a bit and suggested that the people who were brought from Africa to work on plantations, they referred to them as workers, as opposed to identifying them as people who were participating in an economic system called slavery. And so a mother was very outraged about that, and so she petitioned, and actually I think her what she wanted to share about that she put on so this is her outrage on the fact that her kid is being taught that people who were held in that system of slavery were actually just workers. So this is a statement for outrage.
Yesterday I posted a picture of my son, an image from his history book about Africans coming over as workers. So a lot of people asked me about the book and who the publisher was, and so he has a copy of the book at home. We are in Texas, and so this is a part of the Texas textbook adoption. So I'm going to show you the book, and then there's just an interesting section where they sort of place the map. I think it's interesting. So the book is, I'm going to turn the camera on. The book is this book by McGraw-Hill, World Geography. See, that's the publisher's McGraw-Hill. And on the inside of the book, just a little scary to me, you have all of these people who are seemingly wise people. All of them have that little PhD behind their name. And these are the academic consultants for this book. And then here are the reviewers and consultants.
I would not want my name to be on that list.
Plenty of Texas people who approved this book. Yeah. And then there's the Texas Advisory Board as well. So again, these are all people, all professionals who said yes to this book. So the section that we find that map in is under this section called Patterns of Immigration. Patterns of Immigration. You see, it says one of the defining attributes of the United States is that it is largely a country of immigrants and their descendants. About 13% of the people in the United States are foreign-born, while Native Americans, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians make up 2% of the population. The remaining population is descended from immigrants. Immigrants. Yeah, that word matters. Immigrants. The Atlantic slave trade between the 1500s and the 1800s brought millions of workers from Africa to the southern United States to work on agricultural plantations. So it is now considered immigration. And these are some other sections that sort of talk about the pattern of immigration. This section here in particular talks about English and European peoples, many of whom came as indentured servants to work for little or no pay. So they say that about English and European people, but there is no mention of Africans working as slaves or being slaves. It just says we were workers. So that's for you all who asked about this book. Again, it is World Geography by McGraw-Hill.
Comments?
News shows that right active. But I mean, I just have the idea there. That's great. So it's kind of an agenda by places.
What else? Other comments? Yes, sir. Typo. It's very deliberate.
This is what I just said. It said the African slave trade. So they said it was a slave trade, but they didn't call it slaves, which it doesn't make sense. It's literally like 4 words later.
Yep.
Why wouldn't they just call it slaves? That's what it was.
So all human behavior is what? Goal directed. So what's the goal of this kind of thing? To make it not seem as bad, right? Yes, ma'am.
There are some people in the world that try and claim that like the Holocaust never happened because there's like nobody really around that was like there at the time. I mean, there are like, but yeah, and I think this kind of going on to that, like if you just kind of tame it down like a little bit every time they publish something like this, there are going to be people who are claiming that things like that never happened because there's nobody around that can like claim those things, you know. I don't know. I just
Well,
like it is kind of scary.
Yeah, so on the on the publisher's behalf and the people who kind of put their stamp of approval on this, I can imagine that there are also people who are saying, okay, we've talked about slavery enough, let's get over it, right? There are people saying it's time to get over it. And I would suggest that probably was not the way to get over it. Right? So wiping it out is not how you get over it. So, and what is our problem about history that we don't remember? We can't learn from it, and what else? We could repeat it by accident, right? So it's important to call those things what they are. But what else does this say about people's history that we can just wipe it out or not remember it, right? So the fact that, well, so we can talk more on that. I did want to address papers, just in case anyone was concerned about their grade for their papers. As we move forward, you can use the outline as a starting, but I'd like for you to really massage that into a real paper, all right? Instead of just having the bullet lines. For some of you, you just went like an outline and answered the bullets. I want you to really massage that into a paper, all right? And some of you have made comments on others, and you didn't necessarily do that, but just remember that. Thank you so much for the advice.
Do you have does it, should it follow that same outline?
Nope.
That's literally just thoughts.
Yep. So in-class essays are your thoughts, just your thoughts. So it's not a format. There's no format to it. I just want to know what you're thinking. 2 classes. Yep. And you can select from any of the 2 classes that we've had.
Cool. All right.
So my little, I did as a paper, and then I found the rubric for the other 2, and then the examples, and let's figure out the base class, and so we had it as bullet points. So the last 2 ones I did as bullet points, but I already put in.
Okay. No,
I did do
that's
the
good.
same thing.
Okay, you did the same thing.
That wasn't my question, but it said like, here's the example,
Use an
and then
example
it
and
had
get
the
the
bullet.
bullet.
Yeah,
So
that's what I mean.
yeah, so I will go back and
Because I already turned my study on.
yeah, I can only grade you on, you can only expect to be graded on what I gave you as the example. So I will put that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then question. Okay, so we have 4 of the CLE learning events for 1 faith-based event. And the event that we go to where we're like in a discussion based, does that fall under one of the CLEs? Do you know what I'm talking about? Because we're doing the ones where we take in the information, or the
Right.
one where we do something.
Yeah.
Is that a CLE or is that the experiential learning?
That's the experience.
Okay, so I can fill that out for the experiential learning
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing like the Z tag, but I still do an event that's experiential learning.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm clarifying. So 4 CLEs, one. Okay, I already went to 1. I'm just trying to like figure out what like what stuff to fill out like for the correct like stuff to turn in.
Okay.
So
The experiential learning, what would you suggest would be a great, budget? I'm like having a hard time like figuring out what.
Yeah. So one thing you could do is if you contacted Louisville.
Well, you see, I don't need to have it.
Right. But you can do an avid experience. You can do one of the things. So.
Okay, is that what you're expecting? Like, I'm gonna, because I thought the average was like strictly the time you gave 30 hours.
Yeah.
That's
So-
because that's what like the example.
Yeah, that was the example. So, no, I would say, is there a place where you can volunteer? Is there?
I volunteer at my church.
Well, I mean, outside, I mean, so
Yeah.
even if it meant, and this is a little way below, be my starting children, or, in some way.
Okay.
So, yeah, you just volunteer somewhere, be active.
Correct.
That'd be great.
It's just hard to find stuff to do because I don't know where to search.
Yeah, and I would say,
Like it would be super helpful to have like a list of like examples of like, hey, you could do this or you could do this or you could do this.
let me pick up that and I'll put something up tonight.
Okay.
All right,
Sweet, thank you.
no problem. Put something up.
Actually, everyone else seems to always remember where they sit. I don't. I sit. But, no.
That would be classic.
Thank you.